Hi, welcome to Talking Text. Passage is 1 Peter chapter 3 from verse 21. Baptism, which corresponds to this, now saves you, not as a removal of dirt from the body, but as an appeal to God for a good conscience through the resurrection of Jesus Christ, who has gone into the heaven and is at the right hand of God with the angels, authorities, and powers, having been subjected to him. Baptism, which corresponds to this, Peter had just written to them about Noah and the ark and how God had provided a way of salvation through the flood. And Peter says, your salvation is now provided through the resurrection of Jesus. There is still a way now of salvation, and it's not an ark, it's the resurrection of Jesus. He's quite clear that baptism is not the removal of dirt from your body. That's called a bath, and we encourage everyone to bath. But he says the baptism is when you are you believe in the resurrection. It says through the resurrection of Jesus, you are given a clear conscience. You have a good conscience. You can only have a good conscience when you believe on the Lord Jesus, who removes our sin from us. And that's the way of salvation, believing in the resurrection and receiving a clear conscience from God. And you know if that's happened. If you get baptized, you know you've been wet. If you are born again, you know you are right with God. You are free and your conscience is cleared. What an amazing gospel. What an amazing way of salvation God has provided. And so Peter's describing this way of salvation to them. He says, Jesus then also went up into the heavens and was seated at the right hand of God. When Jesus rose from the dead, he appeared to the disciples, and then it says he ascended into heaven. Another verse tells us that Jesus is interceding at the right hand of God for us. What a joy to know that Jesus sits in the seat of authority and rules over all things, but is also praying for us. And it says that all things have been subject to him. The angels, authorities, which is all powers and government or anything, all things are subject to Jesus. Even the spiritual powers, the demonic realms, everything is subject to him. So great, and a great privilege to be able to submit our lives to Jesus, the ruler of all things. You know that one day he will come back and all things will be made subject to him. At this time, we know that we can avail ourselves or make ourselves subject to Jesus. We can trust him, we can believe him, and make ourselves subject to him. One day he will make all things subject to him. But at this time, God is being gracious and calling people to make Jesus their Lord. So thank you for listening, and thank you for letting the text talk.